Hello, welcome back. I don't really like filming in this room because it's really messy in the background, but I have a big window in front of me, so the lighting's great. It is what it is. In any case, I'm going to be talking about the Purito Cica Clearing BB Cream in comparison to the Missha Perfect Cover BB Cream. I've had the Missha one for a long time. As you can see, I've used up quite a bit, have enjoyed it. Though I've wanted to try this basically since it launched. It just took me a while to... I make a K-beauty or Asian beauty order like a few times a year. So it took me a while to get around to it is all. I buy either of these usually off of Style Korean, Yes Style, Jolse, whatever Asian retailer is doing the best deals at the time for me, because I'm based in US and generally they all ship to me with ease. But that's where I would go for these. They can range anywhere from like $7 to maybe like $15 is what I've seen for these products. I wouldn't pay more than $20 for it because I feel like they usually go on sale for something in the range of cheaper. I have the shade 21 Light Beige in both, and they're a little bit different, but getting into things a bit more, the Missha Perfect Cover has 50 milliliters of product, whereas the Purito has 30 milliliters of product, so that is something to keep in mind. I quite like the packaging on both. They're both squeezy tubes. Missha has a pump at the end, which feels pretty nice, honestly. I feel like given how affordable this product is, I've always felt that it feels quite luxe. I will say after a long time my cap has been cracked, but I've owned this for a long time and it's held up pretty well. The Purito one is just a squeezy tube, very sleek, very compact, big fan. So getting into the shades a bit, I have the Purito one on top here and the Missha on the bottom. They're both very, very gray looking, and the Purito one is a bit darker, as you can see. They're both super similar in consistency. They are kind of plush and like gel-like. I don't have any base product on except for SPF, so I'm just gonna start applying them. For reference, here is the Purito against my skin tone, and here is the Missha. I do think that the Missha for me is a better match, just because the Purito one is like more brown and gray. I think I'm gonna apply the Purito one on this side and the Missha one on this side of my face. So let's go ahead and get started with that. I'm using a beauty blender because that's my favorite way to apply things. And I do feel like the consistency of both of these products is pretty ideal for using a beauty blender with. It's not too liquidy that it just gets soaked up and away. Okay. So off the bat, a few differences that I want to point out. They look somewhat similar on both sides of my face, but I squirted out like initially a pretty similar amount of product of each, but the Purito one just definitely has more coverage. I tried to use a similar amount of product when I first started, but then on the Missha side, I ended up reaching in and building it back up. So anyways, I used up that entire side and there's still this much like Purito product left, and I feel like they have similar amounts of coverage. If anything, my left side has more, so the Purito one definitely goes longer for the amount of product that you have to use. Like I feel like I want to reach in and build up a little more on the Missha side. Okay, so I was feeling a little blank. So I've put on a tiny bit of under eye concealer and some lip product on, but I don't have any like powder or other face base color product on, so we can look at the BB creams up close. I think that these are both really quite similar, and for most users you could have one or the other. Like, I feel like I could like blindly pick one and I throw away the other and I wouldn't really miss the one that I threw away. It'd be fine. But since I have them both, I was curious about being able to compare them both, so let me tell you about them. First of all, I haven't used the Missha one in a hot minute, and I'm really pleased and like pleasantly surprised again at how incredibly skin-like the finish is, and it just feels like so set down. It's really nice, but I'll get into that further. First, I want to talk about how these are, both of the colors are quite gray going on, and they do this thing where they look shockingly gray, but then as you blend in, it kind of works. But then more importantly, as you wear it throughout the day, it like really kind of settles in and looks kind of fine on your skin. I think these are both buildable, but I would not build them up just because like I wouldn't really wear these on like extreme no makeup days, because I do find that I feel like my head looks a little bit ghostly. Like, I would still want to put on bronzer if I was ever going to reach for either of these, just because like my neck is obviously much more green and yellow, and then my face is kind of like floating a little. I don't reach for either of these that much just because now in my collection I've been trying more base products and have other like lightweight natural BB cream-esque amounts of coverage products that actually match me better. So when I want something in this light coverage category, I don't really want to wear a lot of makeup. The BB cream is not what I reach for, I'm not gonna lie, but they have a lot of like benefits. They have a lot of SPF in them, which is nice. Still have to wear sunscreen though, but I think that if your skin tone is very neutral, either of these gray tones will probably work like better than you expect, surprisingly well for you. The Missha side, it's like so skin-like. It blends out really thin. The formula is a hint thinner, so maybe my beauty blender soaked up a little bit more of the product and that's why I needed to use more. Maybe the product itself is just like thinner in coverage, but either way, I really enjoy putting this on because the finish is just so flattering in ways that I enjoy, and that like the contrast is not like too noticeable, and as I thin it out on my skin, it really sort of like settles into something that I think looks pretty, like a pretty decent match. And I don't think that it's picking up on like dry patches very much. The finish is super natural. Like, it doesn't add, it lets a little bit of my like natural skin glow come through. It's not adding any matteness. But it's also not adding any like luminosity on its own. The finish, I don't feel like there's anything except like maybe a layer of lotion. My skin feels not dry, but also not like moisturized by any means. And it just looks so skin-like. Like up close, I'm having a hard time kind of detecting where it stops and starts. I can see my redness peeking through, but I feel like it's in a very like gentle and natural looking way. It's just like everything I want in terms of being like a lightweight skin-like natural finish base product. It's so good. The main things that make me not reach for it as much is like the color, having better color matches in my collection, one, and the scent. It is super like powder, like your old style makeup powder. That was a weird description. Maybe also like clean laundry scent. Yeah, something about it definitely smells like old-fashioned powder, baby powder or something. And it's quite strong. I smell it when I am opening the tube, when I'm squeezing it out, when I'm blending out the product. It takes like maybe 10 minutes before it fades from my face entirely. So while I really love how it feels and looks going on when I'm applying it, and like applying the product is a step that is important to me because I just like putting makeup on, so it's important for me to enjoy applying it. And the scent takes away from that a little bit. But moving on to the Purito side, so the Purito one is just a hint like thicker in many ways. The formula itself is a little bit thicker. The amount of coverage it gives is a little bit thicker. And as a result, I feel like the lasting power / the makeup-y-ness feeling of it is also more impactful. I don't think that's quite the words. It just like, I don't want to say it feels makeup-y, but it does feel more makeup-y than the Missha side, and it does things like it lasts longer and it gives more effect. Like, I feel like I'm getting a lot more glow on this left side of my face. When I tap it, I can feel that there is some like moisturizing product. It doesn't feel greasy. It just feels like there's some moisturizer on there, basically. When I go to blend it out, there is more coverage and it is more gray. It's also a bit darker, but I feel like you can't really see like a huge difference in the shade now. But I don't really enjoy the application process of this because it's so like starkly contrasted from my skin. Like when I'm blending it out near my forehead, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so gray. Is it really going to be able to blend in my forehead? But nevertheless, it does. It just takes a little bit more patience and legwork or arm work. And it's like lifespan is a little bit longer than the Missha one overall. Like it just has a little bit more oomph and a little bit more cling to it, and it can pick up on patches more than the Missha side. But I feel like both of these BB creams do this thing where they look a little weird because they're so gray at first. But then after some time, they really kind of meld and become one with your skin. This is just like an interesting feature that these BB creams have. And I feel like the time span for the Purito one to do that is a little bit longer. Like I get the best look out of this by like an hour in, because sometimes I'll apply it and I'll look flaky, but then it'll mix with the oils on my face, and by like a few hours in, I'm actually not flaky anymore. So that's really cool. I find that it lasts and wears really well throughout the day. The Perfect Cover one, it doesn't last badly, but it just definitely like fades. Whereas I can still feel like I'm covered on the Purito side for longer, a few hours longer. And then, like I said, the Missha side is super skin-like, whereas the Purito side, it's actually giving me like glow. So if you're someone who really likes a hydrating base, I would definitely recommend the Purito one more. If you want a little bit more coverage, though I do think this one can be like sheared out and this one can be built up. It's just that despite that, this one having a lot more product, they're basically equivalent amounts of product in my head, because like, in order to reach the same amount of coverage, you would need more product of the Missha one. This one, the Purito one, has no fragrance, so I definitely prefer that. Yeah, I think that wraps up my like biggest differences. I think they are basically equivalent from like 2 to 4 hours of wear, with the Purito side just being a hint glowier overall. They both fade pretty nicely, with I think the Missha one kind of disappearing a little bit faster. Neither of them are mattifying, so if you're an oily person, I would definitely powder where you get oily. If I don't wear powder, it just like, you know, I get pretty shiny where I get oily. That is what it is. But it doesn't, neither of them really break apart on me. They just get shiny and kind of disappear. So yeah, the Purito one just has like a little bit more weight to it, which is not exactly something that I personally enjoy in terms of applying the product, but in a way it can be more versatile, more long lasting. So that's good. And then the Missha one, I really hate the scent. Really don't like that. So that wraps up my thoughts. Let me know if you've tried them, if you have anything else to add. I hope that this was helpful. Again, they're very similar. I don't think you can really go wrong with either. So that is that, and thank you for watching.